Hey everybody, Dr. Livingston here, and I've read through all of your posts on the post this week for supernormals, and I thought rather than comment on all of them, I might give you a couple of things that I find really interesting in terms of how this book that we're going to read and study from relates to the role of an executive coach. I think one of my favorite things about this book is that it really does give us, I think, some really good perspective around how clients can show up for us. I think it's really important for us to remember that as coaches, our job is not to go back in the past. We as executive coaches, we meet clients where they are, and with an understanding of their origin story sometimes not. And we work with them to build character structure, to close gap between ideal self and real self, or ideal self and expected self, which is often what happens to folks inside of organizations. I've known countless people that I've worked with over the years who were very clean-cut, buttoned-up executives, white shirt, button-down shirts, ties every day, and when they retire, grow long hair, go buy a motorcycle, and you wouldn't even recognize them if you saw them, right? So there is this ideal self, there's this real self, and then I think the thing that Boyatzis leaves out of his model is the expected self. And that often shows up in organizations. I think that can put pressure on people as we think about this book and what it really is about, Supernormals. Supernormals is really about resiliency and where people develop resiliency from their origin story. Sometimes you will get origin story from your clients. Other times they guard these things as secrets, like Emily did in the reading that we had this week. Many times these folks who are supernormals are super performing, or they are super caring, and this resiliency has popped up in their life to the point that they can become superheroes, that they can become super rescuers because of what has happened to them in their past. I had a client that I was coaching. She was a executive vice president of human resources at a fairly large manufacturing company. And she and I had been working together for almost a year when my phone rang one night, and it was her. I always tell my clients they have 24/7 access to me. They don't use it very often, but if they need me, I want to be able to be there as a resource for them. If I'm not available at the moment, I will call them back. This evening, I happened to be available. I saw it was Jen, and I picked up the phone. And she was crying hysterically. On her husband's phone were pictures of their adopted daughter with no clothes on. Adopted daughter was accusing husband of taking these photos and had gone to a neighbor who had called Children and Family Services. And so begins a saga that ultimately can become a secret for a client who doesn't want this known extensively throughout the organization. If you live in smaller towns, if you live in tight-knit communities, these things can be harder to keep as secrets. But nonetheless, clients that we will have are human, and they've had human experiences, they've had human traumas. And I think that's why it's really important as we are coaching people that we maintain this level of listening, to that clients feel heard and they feel understood. Regardless if this secret ever comes out, it's important that they feel listened to and that they feel heard, that they don't feel judged. That's not to say that you can't help them digest feedback and to process feedback so that they can grow their character structure. It is to say that it's really, really important to maintain your level of curiosity about where a client could be coming from. You know, in the book Supernormal, the Meg J quote has a quote about listening and how important it is for us, for people who work with people in the helping sciences, to be able to be good listeners. And that's my admonition for you. Folks are going to show up in lots of different ways, lots of different settings, lots of different scenarios. 90% of it, you're not going to know. You're not. You might be ushered in to some of these sacred spaces like Meg J was with Emily, or like I happen to be with Jen, but not always. Not always. There are always going to be things playing in the background that we don't know. We're not going to know who was the son or daughter of an alcoholic. We're not going to know who was the son or daughter of someone who, as a child, was sexually molested. We may not know if they've been in accidents before that have caused certain traumas. I have clients relate to me all the time, once trust builds, usually, that they are profoundly dyslexic, that they have OCD, that they've had PSTD. And it's not that we go back and do the counseling work, but I think it's really important to help these people who are supernormal reframe these things that have happened to them in terms of helping them become resilient. Is there a way to help the person who has some level of OCD or is on some spectrum to view it as a gift instead of a disease? I don't want to get clinical and I don't want to get diagnostic. That's not my point. My point is that, for example, I work with a CFO at a fairly large manufacturing company who has some level of OCD. And he always viewed this as a problem. I actually think it affected his adulthood. It kept him from maturing. And he and I started to talk about this OCD as a gift. The gift that he had to organize and the gift that he had to pay attention to detail. At the same time, he was going to see a clinical psychologist who specializes in OCD, cognitive behavioral therapy, to help him overcome the clinical side. So there's a clinical side to some of this that needs professional clinical help if it's recognized. That doesn't mean you can't coach. You can, and you can help these people move forward, building their character structures, closing gaps, having higher levels of emotional intelligence to become the person they want to be and the person that God created them to be. So I thought maybe that maybe a little video helping frame some of the supernormal work that we're going to do might be helpful. Have a great rest of your day.